Hi, I'm CBS News Miami's Eliott Rodriguez. 1 year from now, Americans will go to the polls to choose a new president and determine which party controls Congress. A lot will be at stake. With 30 electoral votes, Florida is the third biggest prize in the presidential race. So with a year to go before the election, we wondered what issues matter most to South Florida voters. My reporting took me into communities in Miami-Dade and Broward. I wanted to know how voters see the current state of politics in America. I talked to voters of all backgrounds and viewpoints. Top of mind for many voters is this question: can we bridge our political divide? I talked to a veteran politician, former Miami Mayor Manny Diaz, about that. And I met with one of the biggest homeowner associations in the entire state to find out what's on their minds. The number one issue I heard over and over again was the economy. Voters have a lot to say about that. So let's begin in Miami-Dade County with concerns about economic realities. I met Anna Rose at Books and Books in Coral Gables. Like many South Floridians, the 22-year-old grad student struggles to make her monthly rent payment.
Housing affordability is huge, especially when you look at gentrification happening in Wynwood right now. The median price for renting per month is about $2,500, and for the average grad student, such as myself, that's not necessarily an attainable rate.
I think it's probably the most pressing issue, especially in places like Coral Gables.
Jonah Kaplan, who helps run the iconic bookstore, talked to me about how much the housing crisis is affecting the workforce.
I manage a lot of employees that are working class, and most of them can't afford to even live near where they work.
How are you, Eliott?
Eliott, nice to meet you.
Nice
Good
meeting
to
you.
see you off of TV.
My next stop was Miami Gardens, where I met Lynette Jones, who runs a tax preparation business and gets a close look at how the economy is affecting people these days.
Do you feel like our political leaders are doing anything to alleviate these economic struggles that people have?
They are doing absolutely nothing. Part of the problem is we have career politicians who are just there to collect a paycheck. They're not really focusing on what's hurting the American public.
Danny O'Neill also lives in Miami Gardens and works as a bartender in Dania Beach. She thinks lawmakers in Washington and Tallahassee are asleep at the wheel when it comes to inflation.
I feel like a lot of people have different ideas of what exactly is going on with inflation and how we got here. Everybody wants to place the blame on somebody. I think that we should more so be looking for a solution rather than trying to figure out who to place blame on.
My next stop was further south in Cutler Bay. At Rod Bender's Bar and Grill, I talked to the locals who say the days of cheaper housing in this part of town are over.
I run a business, a tech company, and we have our starting hourly rates are about $20 an hour, and the employees cannot afford housing in the neighborhood.
I'm from Kendall, and you always heard that Kendall, Southwest Kendall, and Cutler Bay were the cheaper parts of town, and but now not anymore.
Owner Patrick O'Neill sees the economic stress inflation is having on his customers.
We have a major local loyal clientele that they're here all the time. They're the working class. They're first responders, firemen, police, nurses. That's who comes in here. And I think now they're stretched. As far as inflation, high prices, gas, food, everything. And I think it's just pushing a lot of people out, but it's stretching a lot of people thin.
A weekday at Fort Lauderdale Beach usually means you're a tourist or just lucky to have a great schedule. But those who live and work here are struggling to make ends meet. What do you think are the key issues leading up to the elections next year?
Definitely inflation. I've seen everything go up except for my paycheck.
I have a daughter that's just graduating high school, and she's looking at buying a house. Well, I don't know if you're young and try to buy a house now, and there's just not much out there for low-income beginning people.
I would say interest rates, inflation, but I'd also say national security and protecting the U.S. and with all the wars going on right now, we gotta think about America first too at the same time. So, that's my biggest key issue.
I talked to people of all backgrounds on Las Olas Boulevard. This man is from Israel.
United the people together. This is the most important thing.
This lady is a real estate agent.
Affordable housing. I mean, there's a lot of great luxury homes here and things like that, which we deal in. But the workers need to have a place to stay as well, but the land's not cheap.
According to Realtor.com, the average home price in Fort Lauderdale is more than $500,000. The average rent, more than $2,700, and that's putting a major stress on voters. Another issue I heard about is a basic one, the right to vote.
The right to vote is very important. I think that everybody should be allowed to register, everybody should be allowed to vote, and there should be no gerrymandering of districts.
My next stop was Lauderhill, where I spoke to Reuben Roberts, a former local head of the NAACP. He's worried about political polarization.
Some politicians are stoking fears in people that creates more tension in our community. And I think that if we're Americans, we really need to be looking at how we can live in unity together.
Brandy Moore is the owner of Liquid Paradise. While she serves delicious daiquiris, she knows there's nothing sweet about today's economy.
Everybody I have here on staff is the second job. It's not their first job. So it's all people needing second jobs just to make ends meet now, when it wasn't the case a couple years ago.
The longer I stuck around, the more issues that came up.
I want to say for me right now, it would definitely be gun safety. Gun violence is the #1 cause of death amongst our youth right now, and I don't sense a urgency in making that decrease.
One issue I would speak on would be climate change. I think that is something as a Floridian that we need to continue centering and making sure that our local electeds and state electeds are serious about.
If we do not have the ability to have our people with livable wage jobs that would allow them to provide for their families, one or two things are going to happen. They're either going to go out and make it through illegal ways, or they're going to end up staying home and not really working.
The Kendall Federation of Homeowner Associations is one of the biggest groups representing homeowners in the state. So when they invited me to a meeting, I showed up and asked them what issues are on top of their minds.
I think we need to address some very serious problems that we have in South Florida with regards to water quality, with regards to the impending crisis that we have with, all these septic tanks that we have that are polluting Biscayne Bay, impacting the seagrass beds, which is sort of the bottom part of the food chain, right? If you don't have healthy seagrass beds, you don't have healthy fish, you don't have healthy manatees, it's a domino effect.
I may disagree with you, but we all need to agree that we vote on 4 things in the U.S. Safety, education, health, and economy.
Is that happening now?
No.
Education, the economy, rising interest rates, and inflation are concerns for everyone here. Jim Denny brought up another hot topic, political polarization.
The days when, the right and the left would sit down and come to a mutual agreement that benefited everybody, even though you didn't get everything you wanted, but if you got some of what you wanted and they got some of what you wanted, those days are gone.
It's compromise.
The compromise, they're supposed to, and that just doesn't exist anymore.
Before taking off, I took an unofficial poll. Who here thinks that the key issue leading up to the elections next year is housing affordability?
That's one.
Okay. Inflation.
That's a big one.
Okay. Polarization in Washington and in Tallahassee, where our lawmakers can't get things done.
That's not the America I grew up in.
Former Miami Mayor Manny Diaz worries about America's political landscape.
A lot of good work has been done.
Diaz served as mayor of the city of Miami from 2000 to 2008 and was later state chairman of the Florida Democratic Party. He's out of politics now, practicing law with no desire to get back in the arena.
Quite frankly, I think about that sometimes, whether I would even consider running at a time like this. And usually I come down on the side of no.
Diaz told me politics has gotten too personal, with Democrats and Republicans refusing to compromise with one another.
People can't even talk to each other, and that's not the politics I'm used to. I mean, You know, I've been a Democrat, but I've worked with Republicans all my life, and they've worked with me, and we've gotten to the end, which is to get something done, right? Because we're there to get something done for the people that we represent.
Well, how do we get out of the state that we're in right now, where both sides have dug in their heels and have gone to their respective corners, and we're not getting anything accomplished?
Well, I know it's kind of a cliche, but the only way to accomplish that is by electing good people, and electing people who will walk both sides of the aisle and work with everybody.
Diaz told me money has corrupted the political system, with lawmakers spending more time raising money for the next election instead of focusing on issues.
Money was always a part of politics, but now it's like a black hole. Politics has become all about money and raising money. Those elected officials in Washington, I know, they spend a huge portion of their day dialing for dollars.
He blames the Supreme Court for watering down campaign finance laws and points to the internet and media for widening the political divide.
You're being fed everything that you want to hear every single day. The other people are evil. The other people are bad. On both sides of the party, both parties. So when they hear a candidate with that kind of a platform, that's the candidate that they're choosing, instead of looking for somebody who's actually going to work with Democrats and Republicans.
Manny Diaz stepped down as chairman of the Florida Democratic Party in January of 2023. He was replaced by former Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried. Don't forget, the Florida primary will be on Tuesday, March 19th. Stay with CBS News Miami for complete coverage of Campaign 2024, and we'll continue to listen to you, the voters, who will have the final say on Election Day. I'm Eliott Rodriguez.